My name is Cassy Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Hello, welcome to the show. Oh, I'm so excited about this topic today. So I was on a group call and this conversation of autism came up. And the participant she had brought up really like beautifully, vulnerably about like not liking labels. And I completely can understand that. But what we started to also look at is where can a quote unquote label actually set you free or expand your universe? So growing up, my little kiddo, my oldest kiddo, he was always kind of like very, very sensitive. I remember reading books on like indigo kids and like all these different things. And I'm like, oh, that's just, he's just super sensitive and all like kind of not really giving him a label, but giving him like a non-label label. This will make more sense as we go along. So just come along with me on this journey, okay? Um, as he got older, around when he was around 10, things started to get more and more challenging for him with school. And this is when it was recommended to us to get him diagnosed. Now, at first I resisted because I know that diagnoses can limit people. Okay, what can happen is people will use this kind of information and they will put themselves into a box and they will kind of like almost twist themselves into something that maybe doesn't necessarily like the whole package doesn't go for them. And it can also create a disability. And so I was like worried about all this stuff. I'm like, wow, if we get him diagnosed, then how are people going to talk to him and react to him? And like my protection mom came up. What if he starts to read on like what autism is and he starts to see it as a disability? And he's so powerful and so capable. I never wanted him to see himself as disabled. Yet with his sensitivities, remember, this is me labeling. I knew that he required different things than other kids. I've worked with kids like my whole life, basically. Before I became a access facilitator, I worked at after school care programs, summer camps, children entertainment. Like I've been with a lot of kids, okay? Even before that, I did daycare, all the things. So I didn't want that for him. When he, but I was following the energy. And you know me, I like to follow the energy. So I went for it and we did it. And we got the official diagnoses. He's officially diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And what actually occurred, which is not what I expected for him, was so much space, so much expansion, and a lot of peace in his world. For him, he was looking at everyone as the same, and he was the black sheep that didn't ever fit in. And when it was I described him like very simply. It took like, he's like, what is an autism? And I said, well, autistic people are on a spectrum, and you can't really label that this is. I'm like, but here's some things that might occur for an autistic person. And I gave him like just 3 different traits, and he's like, I have all of those. And some of the traits were things that other people might judge as wrong or annoying or whatever. And when he started to realize, oh my gosh, it's just that I have autism or I am autistic, then he stopped feeling like such a black sheep. He stopped trying to even fit in as much. It was really actually beautiful what started to occur to him. And we've been on this massive journey with exploring his way of functioning and his way of living with the superpowers of autism and ADHD. He never actually made it a disability. So like everything I was afraid of never applied, right? And so now here I am, as I learn more and more about autism and ADHD and all these things, I start to uncover more and more traits that I have that are very much on these spectrums. And realizing, whoa, what if I'm autistic? What if, and what would it create for me to acknowledge that? Would that label now make me as, well, I can't do that because I'm autistic? No. And it never created that for Xander either. Sometimes when he would observe other kids and it would start to create that I can't do that because I was always there to like shift that perspective because I never want him to look at it like I can't because I have this disability because I know it's autism spectrum disorder. They call it a disorder and I call it like a divergence because you're diverging from what people call as normal. This world is not set up for um, a diverse way of functioning. It's set up for a particular type of people that function in a particular type of way, the neurotypicals, right? It's even, I would always like, the clothing, like size, 0 to 12 or whatever, or 14 or XX. It's like, there are like, what is a typical medium? What is a typical small? And I felt like my body never fit into any of these. And I never knew. People are like, what size are you? I'm like, I literally don't know. Like I'll have to go and check it out because I'm only 5'3" and I don't always like it's like all this thing. Like I never fit into the typical. I don't have the typical body. I don't have the typical brain. I know I'm not the typical person. But until I really acknowledged it, which is what the diagnoses could create, I wasn't really willing to be present with it. I was like, yeah, I'm different, ha ha ha. But again, in that kind of non-Xander sensitive kind of way, like not really acknowledging it's the non-label label. So when are labels powerful and when are labels limitation? When you define something, definition by definition alone is a limitation. It is. When you go, I'm a mom, like if you say you're a mom, you're like, I'm a mom, and you're defining yourself as a mom, you now have limited yourself to be anything that would be non-momish, right? So like a crazy sex haven goddess. It's not very motherly, is it? Like, and depending on your culture. And so here we look at this place where when you start to define things, and if you define yourself as like, I am autistic, yes, it can absolutely create a limitation. And in access consciousness, which is my jam, we always talk about undefining, letting go of definitions. But sometimes these labels can be more from a space of acknowledging what's real and true. So you have to get clear for you on when is the label, when is the label actually a contribution? And can you allow those labels to be contributions? So now with the whole mom thing, I went right into the label of being a mom and I was like, I'm the mom. And I was doing all the mom things. And then once I went through my divorce, and there was a week there where I wouldn't be a mom per se because my kids were off somewhere else. So then I was like, okay, now I'm a single woman. And that's just another label. And I would kind of flip between these two different lives, right? And, but when I was the single woman, I wasn't allowing myself to also receive being a mom. Yeah. Because even labeling yourself as, if you're saying I'm not autistic, you're also labeling yourself as neurotypical. But if you're not, then you're missing out on all the gifts of autism. We're getting there. I know. This is like maybe for you, maybe not. It's like going on this very complex labyrinth, and we're getting there, guys. Thank you for going on this journey with me into the curious universe as we get really curious about where you allow labels to actually just be acknowledgement. Now, labels can absolutely, and again, I'm going to say this just because some of you are fighting me and I know it. 100% a label can limit you and a label can because a label can define you and it can feel like you're putting yourself in a box. But I always find it bizarre that to avoid or fight against boxes, we create new boxes to put ourselves into. How does that make any sense? It doesn't to me. It never will. Rather than any box, what if you were willing to acknowledge the aspects of things that you are? So what if acknowledging I am a mom, like I birthed two kids. I am that. And I am a woman. Like I have a woman's body. I chose to be a woman. I love being a woman. But that doesn't mean that I'm not masculine sometimes. It doesn't mean that I'm not unmotherly sometimes. It doesn't mean, and even like defining myself as Cassy, right? Like everything that is. It's like right, wrong, good, bad, POC, bot, all 100 shorts, boys, pose, creation, space. Yes, that's what we needed. We needed a clearing statement. If you're new to the show, then you've maybe never heard of that before, or maybe you have, but it is called the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. It is something that we can say that will actually clear out energy so magically and beautifully. That's all I'm going to say about it. But if you want more information, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. There's videos there and a whole thing so you can go deeper into the meaning behind that. Okay, so now we're acknowledging two things. We're acknowledging that definitions, labels, boxes are limitations. Yes. And then we can go, where is this type of quote unquote label actually able to create more space, create more awareness, create more, like, what if I thought I was a tree this whole time? I'm like trying to feed myself like I'm a tree. I'm trying to treat myself like I'm a tree and not realizing like the physical form that I actually have. So it's about actually, for me, it's getting congruent with what is and acknowledging with what is without the limitation that labels can bring. So I don't want the limitation of being a mom or being a woman or being a Cassie. I was trying to think of something else, but I don't. Oh, business owner. That's another one. The label of being an entrepreneur, right? It's like you have to work hard and like you never get weekends off. Like there's all this stuff with that. So if you don't buy into the limitation of any of it, but I'm willing to acknowledge, like, I am an entrepreneur. I own a business. I love being an entrepreneur. I love coming up with new business ideas. I love all this business stuff is so fun for me. I love being a mom. But I also love when I'm off duty, not being a mom. But it's like I don't have to separate from aspects of me that are motherly. I don't have to, when I'm not doing business, I don't have to separate from my business because I haven't actually used labels as this box system, this definition system, this limitation system as others have. So for you, getting labels such as ADHD, autism, or whatever may or may not be a contribution to you. But if you're in total resistance to it, part of having this conversation is to open you up to maybe looking at um, is there actually more awareness that you might get if you were to maybe take an online test and just see? You might be very surprised and go, wow, actually, I'm very autistic. And I've been putting myself in the category of neurotypical. Or, oh my God, I'm actually not autistic at all. Now there's space because if you're resisting something, somewhere you've already decided that you are, by the way. And then you might go, oh, wow, okay, cool. Like here I was like secretly avoiding and secretly afraid that I am this, but I'm actually not. And now you can embrace this without confining yourself to neurotypical, like not making neurotypical a limitation either. Yes, see? So what if it was just awareness? What if it wasn't a box that you had to fit in? One of the things I love about autism spectrum is that it's very hard to put autism in a box. We've maybe seen like you've maybe seen Rain Man or seen like some of those shows. And for a while, I think people put autism in a box and they were like Asperger's and this is autism. And but I've been like at my kid used to go to the school like just full of autistic kids, and a lot of the mentors there were on the spectrum, and it's literally so varied. It is so incredibly varied. And I know that people don't look at ADHD as a spectrum, but I actually do because I see a spectrum of different ways and way in the way that it shows up for people. And so with that awareness, if you had the awareness of, oh, wow, so my brain, and that's what we're talking about. So an autistic brain functions differently. It receives information differently. An ADHD brain functions differently. It receives information differently. Okay, right? So that's just information. That's awareness. And then how do you use that to your advantage? This is what I love about the awareness that labels can create if you're willing to have it as an expansion. And I want to say this one because I could see some people taking this and twisting it and making it weird. And you said that labels were good. I'm not saying that at all. I know multiple situations where someone has labeled someone and it has created a disability and a contraction in their world. Absolutely. But this is for those that resist the information or the awareness that a quote unquote label can give them. Whether it's on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, whether it's what other label are you resisting and reacting to? Like, what was, oh my gosh, I can't even remember now, but I remember someone trying to give me this label. Oh, when I used to have a mohawk, it was like the label they wanted to give me was like punk, right? And I'm like, I'm not punk, like so weird. But that's where because I felt like they're trying to put me into a box rather than going, oh, interesting. This is how like they're labeling me. How could I be using this to my advantage? I don't have to buy the label. Like, so you don't have to buy, now I'm autistic, so I must do autistic stuff. I must be the autistic person. No, it's okay. How does this show up for me? And for you, it actually might not be getting any diagnoses. Maybe it's just to start to get clear on like, how does your brain function? What does your brain require for processing information, receiving information, uh, sending information, and starting to get present with that. And maybe you never get an official diagnosis, but that's what you require. So, but would you be willing just to open the door to getting clear for you on what is going to create more for you? My littlest kiddo is, I would say, very much on a lot of spectrums, but it is not, for him, getting an official diagnosis is really heavy. My sense is at this time in his life, it would lock him into limitations. So I'm choosing not to do that, which is really cool. So if you had no resistance to labels, whether someone was giving you a label or you were giving yourself a label, how could you actually allow information and awareness to contribute to you, to expand your life, to expand your functioning in a totally different way? Now, I get this conversation might have brought up a lot of charge for you. And so all that charge, everything this is bringing up, everywhere you want to defend against me or something you bought or something within you, or you want to defend for this and defend for this and defend for this, none of that is true awareness. All of that has points of view and judgments because you don't defend awareness. It just is. So everything this brings up, well, let's down. Will you destroy it and create it, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, bot, all 100 shorts, boys, poets, creations, spaces, and beyonds. It's not about me, and it's not about what I chose with my kids. I really want you to get curious about you. I'd really like for you to get curious about you with this and what labels have you been resisting that are actually imprisoning you. Wow. There. That's where the gold is. Because if you stopped resisting, and you started to ask questions and get really curious and invite contribution in, what would be possible for you then? Thank you so much for exploring this topic with me. I'm curious to know if it was a contribution to you. If you know anyone that has this going on in their life, please feel free to share. I would love for this to get out into the world, and I would love to be having more conversations about this in a different way. Because, yeah, I would really love a world where we could be embracing neurodiversity. And that doesn't mean making it right either. It doesn't mean that neurotypical people are wrong. But what if we were all a huge contribution to this world? Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world?